Diamond Ankara was the only daughter of one of Ghana's wealthiest billionaires, Chief Kwame Ankara. Raised in opulence and educated at Cambridge, she had everything a girl could dream of: designer wardrobes, a private jet, luxury cars, and invitations to exclusive events from Accra to Monaco. But love, that had always eluded her. So when her father announced her engagement to Tariq Mensah, the heir to a Nigerian oil empire, Diamond was caught between honor and rebellion. Tariq was everything on paper: a Harvard graduate, suave, powerful, and scandal-free. But he wasn't love. He was an arrangement. A business merger, wearing a tuxedo. Diamond wanted something different, something real. One morning, Chief Ankara summoned Diamond to his rooftop breakfast lounge overlooking the ocean. With chilled mimosa in hand and gold-rimmed sunglasses on his face, he declared, "We must unite the family empires. You will marry Tariq next month in Lagos." End of discussion. But Diamond had already made up her mind. With her mother's secret help, Diamond vanished. Leaving behind her socialite life, she took on a fake identity as Amma Boateng, a sociology graduate student conducting rural development research. Her destination? A remote village called Wyomase, a place with no malls, no paparazzi, and definitely no suitors and Ferraris. That's where she met Kwabena. Tall, dark, quiet, and brilliant, Kwabena was a local schoolteacher who had returned from the University of Cape Coast to teach village children and rebuild his father's farm. He had no idea who Amma really was, and she liked it that way. She volunteered at the school, helped him plant cassava, and slept under mosquito nets for the first time in her life. Months passed, and for the first time ever, Diamond felt like a human being, loved for who she was, not what her name carried. Soon, she and Kwabena fell deeply in love. Everything unraveled when a journalist from Accra, hunting for a scoop, stumbled upon Amma buying medicine at a local pharmacy. The headline hit every major African tabloid the next day. Billionaire's daughter living as villager? Love, lies, and luxury lost. Chief Ankara was furious. He chartered a helicopter to Wyomase that same evening and stormed into the village square, demanding his daughter return immediately. Kwabena was stunned. "You lied to me," he said quietly, pain in his eyes. Diamond tried to explain. "I didn't lie. I just didn't tell the truth." Chief Ankara dragged her back to the city that night. Back in Accra, the wedding to Tariq was fast-tracked. Diamond felt like a prisoner in her own mansion. But one night, while scrolling through her late mother's old emails, she discovered something chilling. Tariq's family had bribed their way into her father's oil partnership years ago, faking their status, doctoring bank documents, and riding on an illusion of wealth. Tariq wasn't a billionaire. He was a fraud, raised to look the part. Armed with this information, Diamond confronted her father. "I found the truth about the Mensahs. They're not what you think." Chief Ankara froze. "How do you know this?" "I found Mom's emails. She knew all along. She tried to stop the wedding before she died." "You didn't listen then. Will you now?" Just when Diamond thought she could finally return to the village and claim her real love, another twist hit. A high-level audit revealed that Kwabena was not just a village teacher. He was the secret heir of a wealthy cocoa empire based in Côte d'Ivoire. After a bitter family fallout, he had changed his name and chosen to live humbly, away from the world of greed. Diamond gasped as she saw his name, Kwabena Ndri Diabate, CEO of Diabate Exports, on the cover of Forbes Africa the following month. She hadn't fallen for a poor village boy. She had fallen for a billionaire in disguise, just like her. But this time, it wasn't about the wealth. It was about the truth they had both hidden, and the love that had survived all lies. The ballroom glittered like a sea of diamonds. Gold chandeliers hung above a floor tiled with imported Italian marble. The city's most powerful elites gathered for the annual Royal African Gala, a charity event that disguised itself as a battlefield of wealth and status. Diamond arrived in a floor-length emerald green gown, her presence impossible to ignore. But she wasn't the one who caused the buzz tonight. It was Kwabena, not in dusty sandals or faded trousers, but in a custom midnight blue suit, a black silk shirt open at the collar, and a discreet but deadly expensive Audemars Piguet on his wrist. He walked in like he owned the room because, technically, he could. The whispers swirled. That's the village teacher?
No, darling.
That's Kwabena Ndri Diabate. Cocoa tycoon. Multi-billionaire. Wait. He was with Diamond before Tariq? Tariq, standing near the champagne fountain, nearly choked on his drink. The two men locked eyes across the room. One carried generations of fabricated wealth. The other, silent power wrapped in real legacy. Kwabena walked straight toward him. Tariq, he said with a calm smile, we haven't been introduced properly. Tariq clenched his jaw. I don't need an introduction from a man who digs yams for a living. Kwabena laughed softly. You're right, but you do need a better accountant. Your father's numbers from the Abuja deal? They don't match. Tariq's face turned pale. You've been exposed, Kwabena continued. The Ankara family knows everything. I assume you came tonight to pretend nothing happened. Tariq took a step closer, whispering sharply. Stay out of my business. I've worked too hard to get this close to the Ankara fortune. Kwabena didn't flinch. And I've worked too hard to let someone like you play Diamond like a stock option. A small crowd had gathered. Guests pretended to chat, but every ear was tilted in their direction. Then Diamond stepped in. Tariq, she said, her voice steady. We're done. I know the truth. Tariq chuckled bitterly. And you think he's any better? You didn't even know who he was.
No, she said.
But I loved him before I knew. That's the difference. Suddenly, a reporter from African Business Weekly stepped forward, holding her phone up. Mr. Mensah, care to comment on the forged contracts linked to your family's oil empire? Another stepped in. Is it true your Harvard degree was purchased through a ghost scholarship fund? Security began to close in. Tariq turned, his carefully manufactured empire crashing around him with every flashing camera. Kwabena, still cool, offered a final nod. Accra is small. Lies don't hide long. Meanwhile, Chief Ankara watched from the upper balcony, quiet and thoughtful. For the first time, he saw Kwabena not as a village boy, but as a man who had built power without ever having to shout about it. He turned to his chief of staff. Set a meeting with Diabate exports. It's time we talk business and family. The wind hummed softly through the baobab trees of Wyoming, carrying whispers of stories both old and new. Life in the village had returned to its quiet rhythm, but the air was different that day, charged, like something or someone was coming. Diamond stood just outside the school where she had once read storybooks to barefoot children under a neem tree. Her emerald gown had been traded for a simple Kent skirt and white blouse. Her makeup was soft, her smile unsure. She hadn't told Kwabena she was coming. She just showed up. He stepped out of the classroom, still holding a stick of chalk, his sleeves rolled up and his hands dusted with white. For a moment, they both just stared. Two souls who had once collided by accident but now stood in front of each other by choice. Hey, she whispered. Hey, he said softly. I know who you are now, she began. I know your last name, your company, your net worth. He raised a brow. And none of it changes how I feel. Kwabena took a step forward. You left without saying goodbye. I had no choice, she admitted. My father, I was trapped. He studied her face for a long moment. And now, she swallowed. Now I'm here because I choose you. The real you. And I hope you'll forgive me for hiding who I was. Kwabena smiled gently. Diamond, we were both hiding. You wore a disguise to escape your world. I wore one to survive mine. He stepped closer, brushing a strand of hair from her face. But here, there are no masks left. Just you and me. Later that week, he took her to Côte d'Ivoire. They visited the sprawling cocoa estate he now oversaw, the Diabate family land, where acres of green stretched as far as the eye could see. Workers greeted him with deep respect. Children ran up to shake Diamond's hand. Why didn't you ever tell me you had all this? She asked, stunned. I needed to know if love could grow without it. That night, they sat on the rooftop of his family mansion under the Ivorian moonlight, sipping fresh coconut water. No limousines. No bodyguards. Just music playing softly from an old radio. I've had gala nights with royal families, Diamond, Quabina said. But this right here, is the only thing that ever felt like home. She leaned her head on his shoulder. So, what happens now? He smiled. We rewrite the story. Together. Back in Accra, trouble brews again. But peace never lasts too long when money and legacy are involved. Back in Accra, Chief Ankara was hosting a private board meeting at his estate. A mystery investor had started acquiring shares in Ankara Oil through proxies, threatening to take over the company if Diamond didn't return and accept her place as future CEO. Only one person had the money, the motive, and the sophistication to pull it off. And his name wasn't Tariq. It was someone far more dangerous. In the Ankara Oil boardroom, tension buzzed like a live wire. The mahogany table, carved from a 1,000-year-old tree, was surrounded by executives in designer suits, each clutching reports they didn't fully understand. Chief Kwame Ankara sat at the head, sharp in a navy agbada embroidered with gold. His voice was low but cold. Someone is buying up shares through shell companies, and no one in this room knows who. A trembling CFO spoke. Sir, whoever it is, they've acquired 18% of our stock. At this rate, they'll gain controlling interest in 6 months. Kwame's eyes narrowed. I want a name. She opened it slowly, her voice steady, her eyes misted. This is a paternity test. Taken from a personal investigation I began 2 months ago after I started seeing certain inconsistencies. Sloane's brow furrowed. Kwame's face twitched. I ran it on myself. Against both of you.
She paused.
And what I discovered is that Chief Kwame Ankara is not my biological father. Gasps filled the room. Sloane went pale. What did you say? Diamond turned to her. The test says you are my biological mother. Kwame slammed his fist on the table. This is a lie. A fabrication. But his eyes were panicked. He wouldn't look at Sloane. Sloane sank into her seat, hands shaking. She was born the year I left. But they told me, Kwame, you told me. Diamond nodded. He told you I died during childbirth. He told me my mother had abandoned me. But he lied to both of us. He took me, raised me as his daughter, and erased your name from every record. The room was silent but electric. Diamond turned to her uncle, the man she once called father. Why, Kwame? Why would you take her child? Kwame's voice cracked, full of resentment. Because she didn't deserve you. She chose ambition over tradition. She defied the elders. I couldn't let her raise you abroad, away from the family name. Sloane stood, tears in her eyes but fury on her lips. You stole my child. You made me live decades believing I was unworthy. But all along, you were the coward. Kwame reached out, but Diamond stepped between them. No more lies. No more secrets. I want peace, but we can't have peace until the truth is faced. She turned to the board. My name is Diamond Sloane Ankara. I am the blood of this legacy, both the fire of Sloane and the discipline of Kwame. And from today, I'm no longer just a daughter. I'm a force. Board members whispered her name. A few stood in slow applause. 2 weeks had passed since the boardroom revelation shook the Ankara dynasty to its core. The headlines hadn't stopped screaming. Daughter of deception, Diamond Sloane Ankara claims CEO seat at Ankara Oil. Stolen child. Billion-dollar battle. A family torn by greed and secrets. Stock prices dipped. Then rose. Then dipped again. Investors were panicked. The media was obsessed. And inside the boardroom of Ankara Oil, an even more dangerous battle was brewing. Not for shares, but for control. The board of directors, in a unanimous emergency vote, appointed Diamond as interim CEO.
Young.
Sharp. Educated. Untainted by corruption. She was the perfect public face to repair the family name. Her first day, she walked into the tower not as a daughter, not as a niece, but as a boss. Kwame refused to attend the ceremony. Sloane watched from the back, arms folded, pride warring with suspicion. That evening, Sloane stormed into Diamond's glass office, heels stabbing the marble like gunshots. "You made your move," she snapped. "But don't think you can play both sides." Diamond stood calmly. "I'm not playing anyone. I'm leading." "You should have aligned with me," Sloane hissed. "We could have rebuilt this empire, no Kwame. No compromise." "And become what he was?" Diamond asked. "Someone who cut people out just because he could?" Sloane's jaw clenched. "You don't understand the cost of power." Diamond looked her aunt in the eye. "And you don't understand its purpose." Meanwhile, behind closed doors, Kwame wasn't licking his wounds. He was building an army. In a smoky private club in OSU, he met with former board members, political allies, and a shadowy former general. "We let her have the crown," Kwame said, "but she won't hold it for long." He slid a file across the table. Inside, evidence of illegal donations from SA Holdings to foreign governments. Companies tied to Sloane. "If Diamond protects her mother," Kwame whispered, "she'll fall with her." Back in the village, Kwabena watched Diamond's press conference on a flickering TV in the community center. She stood tall behind a podium, flanked by security, her voice unwavering. "I didn't ask for this crown, but I will wear it until the house my family built is stronger, cleaner, and worthy of its people." Kwabena's heart twisted. But just as he was about to turn off the TV, a young boy burst into the room. "Kwabena, there's a car outside. With men. They say they know who your real father is." Kwabena turned, stunned. "What did you say?" The black SUV parked in front of the village's community center looked out of place, polished, foreign, humming with silent power. Kwabena stood outside, barefoot on the red soil, sweat glistening on his brow, as two men in black suits handed him an envelope. "We were instructed to give this to you," the taller one said, his accent British Ghanaian. "From someone who says he is your uncle." Kwabena blinked, heart racing. "Uncle." He opened the envelope with trembling hands. Inside was a faded photo of a young woman holding a newborn baby. Behind her stood a man in military uniform, General Moile Ankra. A note in fine handwriting read, "You are the son of our blood. Forgive the silence. Come to Accra. Your name is Kwabena Moile Ankra." Back in Accra, Diamond was caught between a political firestorm and a family meltdown. Kwame had leaked the documents tying Sloane's European tech empire to controversial offshore dealings. The media was having a field day.
Her board was splitting.
Her PR team begged for a public statement. But the worst came when Sloane herself entered her office, shaking. "They've frozen half my assets," Sloane whispered. Kwame gave them just enough. "I'm under investigation in 3 countries." Diamond swallowed the betrayal. "Why didn't you tell me about the donations?" "I thought I could protect you," Sloane replied. "I didn't expect him to use you as bait." Diamond closed her eyes. "Then we'll play his game. But my way." A week later, in a televised emergency board meeting, Diamond stood between Sloane and Kwame, both seated across the room like opposing monarchs. "I know some of you doubt me," Diamond said, voice steady. "But I didn't take this seat for a crown. I took it to fix what you all broke."
She turned to Kwame.
"You wanted to bury Sloane. You forgot I am her legacy." Then to Sloane. "You wanted to erase Kwame. But I am his child, too. Even if not by blood, then by war."
She paused.
"And so, I resign as interim CEO."
Gasps.
Whispers. "But not to abandon this company, to build a new one. One with clean hands, clean books, and no ghosts." She dropped a thick file on the table. "This is my proposal. Ankara Legacy Foundation. Renewable energy. Education. Healthcare. Funded with shares donated by me and any board member with a conscience." That same day, as chaos buzzed in Accra's business circles, a young man entered the tower, dressed in simple but crisp attire. Security tried to stop him, until the chairman of the board stepped out. "You must be Kwabena?" He nodded slowly. "I believe you're here for your seat." The man smiled. "Welcome, Mr. Moile Ankara. We've been expecting you." A glossy magazine cover flashed across billboards from Accra to London. The new ERA, How Diamond and Kwabena Turned Family Scandal into a billion-dollar legacy. Diamond stood in a village classroom, surrounded by children in uniforms, solar panels glinting on the roof above. Kwabena walked beside her, now a quiet storm in designer wear, humility still on his face. The past hadn't disappeared, but it had been rewritten. Together, they had turned pain into power, legacy into light. And as they looked toward the horizon, Diamond smiled and said, "We're not just Ankara by name. We're Ankara by purpose." The end, or the beginning.